All right, so now we're going to take our textures that we just exported out of Painter and bring them into here. Super fast, super easy, super uncomplicated. But there's a couple things we have to understand. Textures are not materials. Materials are what holds the textures. Think of a box that holds all the information, so you can have different textures, pictures, that are placed onto the object to make them look better. Max is not the best place to look at this stuff because it's not designed for it. You can get it to look that way and you can fight with it, but then every time there's an update you have to do another dance. So I kind of just gave up on Max being where I see how cool it looks anymore since PBR especially came along. So for all I'm going to do in Max is change standard to high quality, just so I get hopefully something in here. I don't know why it went black, it's probably the material on it. So let's start out. I'm going to come in here to this button right here, which is the material editor, or I could alternatively push M. And for me, I don't use this menu ever. This is just another example of right clicking and going in here, so I just get rid of it. This one I need, that one I don't. So I'm going to click in here and say materials, and then I'm going to go to the general materials. I used to use the physical material, but it's actually made for rendering and other things, so I don't even care about that. I'm just going to go to PBR Metal Rough, because that's what Unity and Unreal are looking for anyway, and it has all the slots I need. If I came up against other ones, that'd be great, but since I don't really care, I'm kind of just putting it in here for to make sure everything lines up and make sure I have the material exported, and we'll explain that when we get to Unity. But basically you want to have a material on the object named the way you want, so when you export it, it remakes that texture already, that material already for you, so you don't have to make it by scratch and redo it. But anyway, so I say PBR Metal Rough, simple material, pops up. I'm really zoomed out here. Okay, nothing's in here yet, and they've got a bunch of slots. It's got base color, metalness, roughness, AO, normal, emissive, opacity, and displacement. We are only going to use the base color and the AO. I'm sorry, the base color and the normal, just to make sure they're working. We can put the emission on there since we have it, but the metal, roughness, and AO are actually combined into one map called the mask map, which we'll get more into when we get to Unity. But for now, all we really care about is this and maybe the normal. We might as well put the emission on there because it's okay. So I'm going to take my sword and move it over here, and I'm going to grab this and double click on it. I don't know why this is so big. I was probably playing with it earlier. So there we go. It should open more like this when you open it. The first thing you want to do is name it. Just name your materials. Always name your stuff. And my personal opinion is you should name your materials, your meshes, and your textures all the same. It doesn't always work because sometimes you're using iterations of the same thing. You're not going to have just one chair, so you may have 5 chairs. But in general, if you keep that naming convention, especially for materials, textures, and objects, then you'll always know what goes to what. It should be a lot easier to identify, especially on smaller cases. So I'm going to go to base color, and I'm going to click and drag out. And when I do that, it comes up with this new menu. This is called node based, meaning that this is a node, and if I drag off a node, it's going to put another node attached to it. This is the standard way to do it in most engines, so it's a really good way for you to understand it. It's also kind of the way it's done when you look at Substance Designer, which we'll get into a little bit maybe this semester. Anyway, then I'm going to come up here to Bitmap. Bitmap is any texture, any picture that has pixels that defines it. It's not that's all it is, so that's all we care about. So we're going to say bitmap. It's going to ask me which bitmap. Then I'm going to go to the file, this one, and I'm going to pick the base map. As you can see, it's named the same, color base, or base color map, but it's base map. So I just want that. That's my color map, and you can see there it is, a picture of it. Let me shrink this down a little bit. And then go, okay, open. And there I go. There's that. The other thing I need to do before I even started, I probably should have done this, is attach this to this. So how do I get this to be on here? The way I've always done it is just use this little arrow pointing down. It's the 4th button over in the top up here. I think you can drag it too. I've just never done it that way, so not in this Slate material editor, which is what we're in. So I just click this button. It's supposed to be the material attaching to the object. So I click it, and automatically it's going to go on here. Now, weirdly, it's doing something weird here. So I'm not sure why Max was being weird with this high quality right now. I'm sure there's something, my brain is just not clicking of what it is, but we're just gonna say fine. Whatever, Max, we'll just use this. So I've got my texture, as you can see on here. Let me take this off. By clicking it, I can delete it. You can see there's the white texture. If I grab this and throw this back on, it's the picture that we painted inside of Substance Painter. The other thing I just did that I did off camera, I realized, is turn this roughness up. And the only reason I did that is so I don't have it like glossy, painty looking, like lacquered. So I just turn this up usually so I can see the textures. Again, the only reason I'm even doing this in here is to make sure all my textures are lining up the way I think they should. Max won't render them as high res as they need to be in a lot of cases, especially not in this viewport, so they even look coarse here. And then the last thing I'm gonna do is just come to normal, go to general, go to bitmap, take that normal that we exported out of here and put it in here too. And now it even looks like, I think our normal's inverted weirdly. Okay, anyway, the other thing I could do is, since I have it, is I could take this emissive map. I just don't usually have emissive maps. So bitmap, again, I'm always using the bitmap, and then open and throw it on there and see what it does, and there you go. So I now know that my materials are working correctly. I now have a material named Gladius. I now should make sure this is named Gladius. It is. And if I export this object and I bring it into Unity or into Unreal, it will be looking for a material called Gladius with these three already built into it. So when we get to Unity, this saves us a couple of steps. And that may not seem like a big deal, but when you have 20, 30, 40, 50 different things you're throwing in there, this makes a big deal. So that's all we're doing. That's all I'm looking for tonight. And more next time. I guess probably the best way to set this up for us to see it really simple is to move this over here, object name, the object with the textures on it, and the textures. All done. See you next time.